Lots of stuff to do.
You ready now? I'd like to bring the Marine City Commission meeting to order. Marine City Fire Hall, Thursday, July 20th, 2017, 7:02 p.m. 02 p.m. 02. Could we all stand for a prayer, please?
Let us pray. Be present, Spirit God, within us, your dwelling place and home, that this house may be one where all darkness is illumined by your light, all troubles calmed by your peace, all evil redeemed by your love, all pain transformed in your suffering, and all dying glorified by your risen life. Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Vandenbach.
Here.
Commissioner Avery.
Here.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Here.
Commissioner Clausen.
Here.
Commissioner Lovely.
Here.
Commissioner Simpson.
Here.
Commissioner Turner.
Here.
City Manager Bowles. Here.
Next, we have communications. Can I get a motion to receive and file pending agenda items?
So moved. Support.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Residents are welcome to address the City Commission. Please state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Mrs. White, please.
Thank you. Judy White, 8757 Anchor Bay Drive, Clay Township. I want to take just a minute of your time tonight to talk about the upcoming event for September, which is Heritage Days. And it's really an auspicious year to have a Heritage Days festival because it is the sesquicentennial of Marine City. 150th birthday from the legal recognition. I didn't hear that.
We're as old as Canada.
Same age as Canada.
Same age as Canada.
Oh, same age. Well, indeed. Well, that's auspicious too, isn't it?
Sorry to interrupt your speech.
At any rate, in favor of the fact that it is 150 years, we've opened up our costumes for the year to cover any of the eras, not just the post-Civil War era as we've been doing for many, many years. So hopefully you will see people in costumes from the Roaring 20s and the Edwardian era and maybe the 1940s and the swinging 50s and who knows. We invite people who come to attend Heritage Days to come in costume if they want. So if you've got an old, wide, noisy tie and a big lapel suit, dial up, come on down. You will be in fashion. We're going to do some other new things as well this year. We're going to add vendors. We have not done that in the past. We are seeking vendors who do handmade arts and crafts that reflect on past time. And we're looking especially for people who are weavers and quilters, leather workers. We have already lined up a few vendors, and they are Native Americans. And they will be making and selling various kinds of jewelry and leatherwork and so on. And in addition to First Nation vendors, we have the Ojibwe choir coming to perform as well. So that will be an interesting addition. We're also going to have buskers, and they will be all over Heritage Square property, entertaining all day Saturday and Sunday. Speaking of Sunday, toward the end of the day, we're going to have a special ceremony that will cover several things, one of which is going to be an honor for all first responders in the city. Secondly, we're going to unveil and dedicate the bronze signs for City Hall and for Heritage Square. We have 2 new American flags that have flown over the Capitol that will also be placed on the flagpole placed on the flagpole for the very first time to fly in Marine City. I encourage you to attend that ceremony. I think you will find it very moving and very meaningful. Thanks very much for your time.
Mr. Haas?
Haas, 203 Pleasant, 215 Harold Street. You guys probably had a nice peaceful time the last couple of months. Takes me 3 years to get a fence up because we got basically what I would consider squatters taking over their deceased relative's house. Probably still in probate. Finally got a fence up there. Had to give them a foot. As soon as it's all done over with and they're gone, I'll be moving the fence over to where I should put it. Trying to be nice, keep the fence low so they can see their kids running down the street. Finally get all that done, I go to the other side of my house. Now, you know, all know Bell River, that nice little gray house. It's all been redone, revamped. All the nice stone is pretty much washed away because the river's so high now. Her ramps that are in the water. Well, DEQ supposedly is 5 feet. You build 5 feet from the water, from what I understand. The erosion problem that we have is for what she encroached on my property. And it's tampered. She took out all the weeds, all the deals. So now we have a bank under erosion problem going down at the back of the property. I came in, I'm sure Christine Baxter, you're probably in the background, I'm sure you'd let everybody know. A little hot yesterday, trying to stay calm today. You know, it's just a building inspector. No engineering plans. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do what? You're gonna take something that's sucking the water up, feeding plants, you're gonna get rid of it, tamp it down. You got anything engineered for the water runoff, anything like that? No, we got no plans for that. So building inspector, I don't know what's going on with that action. Got, you know, taxes coming up. Yeah, I guess if the weeds are too obnoxious because we couldn't go get the DNR chemicals to kill the pilgramites or whatever you call them, obnoxious weeds they burn down in the Indian Island, Wapu and all that. At least you come by and cut them. I mean, you got a street right away. I got a 65-year-old one-eyed neighbor, Tom Heath, across the street. He's out there trying to cut them down. So I cut down half of them. You know, he's out there cutting it all down. A couple days later, he's telling me, yeah, you know, because after you cut them down, then you see all the garbage. As y'all see on that telephone box, that 14-foot big skid out there, well, that came out of the river before it went downriver. You know, you keep it clean, people throw things in there, and you don't cut it down. That's part of the city. I'm glad Water Street is doing and hopping. Had relatives in town. Now, basically, my kids went down middle of the afternoon. It was probably stupid to try and go fishing middle of the afternoon about 2 o'clock. Got their worms, went down there, no place to park, take the little kid fishing, so they come back home. Luckily, they went in the Bell River and were lucky to catch something out of the Junk River. For the people on Market Street, when they rent that venue with 100 people and 50 cars coming, you better mark your parking spots in front of your houses. I was there, we used it, we went down, we knew the prime times when people all leave so you can get somewhere close when you got old people that gotta walk. Number one, that pavilion. Nothing to block the sidewalk. No markers. You should have a handicap marker on each side of that sidewalk going into that pavilion. Should be parallel parking. What happened to that? One way, like you talked about parallel parking. Where are you going to put all these people? You know, it's just, you know, like I say, everybody charges. Maryville, you people read, I know you read the paper, the comments, the Times Herald. Marysville charging, Port Huron's charging. Why are we still giving it away for free? We can't even take care of the neighborhoods, the street right-of-ways, because we got DPW playing downtown. You know, what do I pay my taxes for? I'm just curious, you know. Like I say, try not to get excited. You know, so if I got people coming, I need to tell everybody I know, hey, run and park downtown for me. And as people show up, we'll jockey cars around. Is that what it's going to be, have to play? You know, like I say, it's amazing. You people all go. I mean, look, not having handicap on each side of that sidewalk, unload zone in front of that. Shame on you people for this community. You want something nice, somebody gives you something nice, you can't even take care of it. What a disgrace. can't take care of the neighborhoods for one damn street. I'm getting excited. I'm done. You don't have to date me, Christie. I'm done.
Anyone else like to speak? Aaron?
Erin Deitch, 323 North William. I just want to come up, first of all, say thank you to the mayor for attending our River Rec Teen Zone fundraisers we had the last couple months. Also, I want to let people know that we have something new here in the town. We've been seeing a lot of stuff about lost dogs, people finding dogs. A couple weeks ago, I made a post out to Facebook about getting a microchip reader. That way we can get one to our police station. I raised enough donations, so I was able to purchase one. As I put that post out there, the Mariner, Gary, and Laura decided that if I could get one donated, that they would match that. So I just wanted everyone to know that if you find a dog, you can now call the Marine City Police Department, and they now have 2 microchip readers. They can scan that dog and they can get that dog home. So that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Mr. Hillfrank.
David, do me a favor, take a gander at that, pass it down. What you guys are about to look at is a picture that I took in front of my house of the street that is growing grass. Many of you, including our mayor, ran in the last election, ran on a platform that more resources, more help would be coming to the neighborhoods and people that live there. As you can see from the picture of road grass that I just handed to you, I and many other people in the city aren't seeing or feeling the help. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Residents and even businesses are feeling bullied and picked on at an all-time high. We are being forced to fix sidewalks at our city property, at our expense, and being written up for blight issues that pale in comparison to the eyesore that is road grass. Things like boats or campers in a homeowner's driveway should fall way down on the list of priorities when dealing with blight of Marine City. How about the junkyard on King Road, with numerous very real eyesores at the very entrance to our town? Or the large anchor that's been sitting by the Edison there in the grass? Both of these issues would be a blight ticket if in a resident's yard. Again, the residents are getting the short end of the stick with no real relief in sight. Things beyond Water Street just continue to deteriorate and get worse, affecting home values and car values alike as cars are rattled to pieces from driving on these horrible roads. Y'all have been on vacation from your commission duties for a month. Did any of you use that time to come up with any ideas at all to make good on your campaign promise and find ways to increase revenue so we can ever address our neighborhood's infrastructure problems? What about our grant writer that would pay $50K a year? Is she working on what should be her #1 priority? As the Mary Street project bids all came over budget because we don't have the money for it, I can't help but feel like we are still just going through the motions and spinning our wheels as a city under an administration that is a third of the way through its term. Yes, 8 months has now passed with little to no help for the neighborhoods, beyond hiring a code inspector who really is just an overpaid ticket writer if you choose to pass her contract tonight. Is $45K a year plus benefits that include mileage reimbursement, health care, and a phone allowance really worth paying an individual who dealt with only 17 building inspection duties and 67 blight enforcement write-ups, 33 of which were merely for grass and weed overgrowth? Is this really the best use of our unsustainable budget? Our #1 priority should be, how do we increase revenue? How do we make our budget sustainable for future generations? Not increasing expenditures by hiring a full-time employee who, more often than not, is being paid to harass citizens. Yes, we need a building inspector, but according to her report, she can do that job part-time and stop with the unnecessarily unfairly skewed blight enforcement. We pay your high taxes and ever-increasing water bills. We don't need another thorn in our side that just makes us feel dumb for choosing to live in Marine City. Please, stop nickel and diming us loyal residents at every turn with what really are roundabout ways at taxing us more, such as extracting revenue from us for sidewalks and now blight tickets as well, especially since Marine City itself is the biggest blight offender of them all. We need to invest in employees that are going to help bring money into Marine City, either through grant or expanding industry. We don't need a full-time ticket writer. We need a full-time person for economic development and grant writing to help get us out of this seemingly bottomless hole that we are in. There are some really great people up here, not politicians, real people. But as more and more time goes by, it looks as if you are guilty of what so many politicians are, and that is empty promises. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Hearing none, moving on. I need approval for the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Any questions or concerns on the agenda? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Need approval for the commission regular meeting June 15th, 2017. Mr. Avery?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 15th meeting.
Support.
Any questions or concerns on it? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the department activity reports, Marine City Area Fire Authority run report, the zoning board of appeals meeting minutes, planning commission meeting minutes, the TIFA meeting minutes, planning commission meeting minutes June 12th, a special event permit for Heritage Days and special event permit for the Marine City Homecoming Parade.
So moved. Support.
Questions or concerns on the consent agenda? Lisa?
The TIFA minutes in here. Since I was on the subcommittee, I was reading on page 3, there's a paragraph in there that I don't have a problem approving these minutes, but that paragraph needs to be removed because that did not happen in that manner. So it's on page 3. It's where it says the subcommittee to work together to draft a document with hard visible evidence to convince the city commission. That whole paragraph, I don't know if you were there.
No, it did not happen.
So I don't have approved, but I'd like to ask that just that one paragraph be removed.
I think in reference to that, it probably was the TIFA subcommittee, separate from the group, did that.
Well, we still didn't have the subcommittee to set a timeline for each. That wasn't there either, so it's really incorrect, written that way. We did offer them to give us some type of documentation to prove why we needed the TIFA, but that was, I think, was turned down because of they didn't want to do it.
Probably those minutes should be taken out of the consent agenda and sent back to TIFA to revisit that paragraph.
Okay.
And then returned here for potential approval.
Okay. So could we get a...
I would amend my motion to include that, the removal of TIFA minutes to send back to the TIFA board.
Okay.
And
Support. Second the motion.
okay.
That's fine.
Any other questions or concerns on the consent agenda? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Avery.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Lovey.
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
No.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Next, we're going to move on to public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, on your public hearing procedures, may I speak for 1 second?
Sure.
You have this on your agenda as a public hearing, then you have it follow up later for potential action. The public hearing process should be such that the matter is called, public hearing is open, and the applicant should provide testimony, and then the public should provide any comments, and then the public hearing should close. The comments from the commission should be limited to the further down the agenda when it's back before the commission for consideration. Just reminding you that the public hearing process is the gathering of what the public has to say.
Okay.
And then your dialogue, you could recall the applicant during your agenda item to ask any follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's start with A, which is special permit number 17-02. Notice is hereby given that Marine City Commission will conduct a hearing to receive public comments on special permit number 17-02, parking for recreational vehicle. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. The public hearing has now been declared open. Anyone want to speak on the first?
Maybe 250 Maple Street.
250 Maple Street. Opposed? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Susan Lester at 250 Maple Street,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have any questions about it, just address me with it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak on that one?
Kim Turner, 361 North Main. I find it ridiculous that people that store these recreational vehicles all winter long and then use them in the summertime and in between stops between different campsites, bring them home, clean them, repair them if necessary, and then go on to the next campsite are not going to be cited by our new lovely ordinance person. I think it's ridiculous, and I think this is totally unnecessary. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Next, we're going to go to public hearing for special permit number 17-03. Notice hereby given that the Marine City Commission will conduct a hearing to receive public comment on special permit number 1703, parking for recreational equipment. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. The public hearing has been declared open.
This is for 530 Scott Street.
530 Scott Street.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lynn Seekin. I live at 530 Scott Street. I received a letter from the city requesting us to move our camper that we bought. Our travel trailer does not fit on the side of our house. In the previous years, we did have a camper that was much smaller, but since then our family has grown, so we had to buy a larger camper. And also, since the last time we had a camper parked on the side of our home, we have had our siding done, we've had new gutters put in, new facets, and they are much bigger than what were on the house that when we first moved into. Our travel trailer does not fit on the side of our house. We are a family of 6, one of the children being a foster child. We are a one-income family that enjoys the outdoors, and in order for us to get the trailer behind our house, we would have to tear out our fence, all of our evergreen trees, and we would have to hire someone to remove a large tree that has been at this home for who knows how many years. And in order to do that, we would have to hire someone to remove a large tree that is in the way. The tree is old and the roots have grown under our cement patio. To remove the tree, we would also have to tear up the entire brick patio and have to pay someone to install a new one after the tree is removed, which would be very costly for a one-income home. In the winter, we do not store the camper at our house. We store it at a friend's home. We do remove the camper from their home in the spring as they use that area to provide food for their family in their garden. My husband works 6 days a week. Sometimes he leaves at 5 in the morning and doesn't return until 7:30 at night. Having the camper at our home allows me to pack up all of the clothes for all of the children that I have. That way when he does get home, it's all ready and we can just leave. We really can't afford to put it in storage with being a one-income family. Being a foster mom, I have a foster child that was born with special needs. And I want to be able to give him the best life I can give to him. And getting him out into the outdoors is helping him learn. Because in the environment he came from, he would never be able to have this chance at life. Excuse me. We keep our yard and our camper very clean, and it is not an obstruction to anyone that should be walking on the sidewalk. We do not sleep in our camper. nor do we use it for storage. It is only used for recreational purposes. I do pre-make a lot of our food for camping, and love that I can put it in the refrigerator ahead of time in the camper so that I can spend more time enjoying my children while we are camping. We have talked to our neighbors prior to bringing our camper to our home. They do not have a problem with it at all. Please consider letting us keep our camper on our property. I have been a resident of Marine City all of my life. I love this town. The town looks great. It has grown. We promise that we are going to continue to keep our home looking great and our property also. We do take care of all of our sidewalks, everything. We've always kept our yard, everything. And I mean, we pay our taxes, and it's, like I said, it's not obstructing everything. Actually, it kind of blocks the youngest son that I have away from seeing the main road so that he's not tempted to run after vehicles and cars and motorcycles when he gets excited that he sees something that he likes. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Haas.
For the Haas 215 Harold 203 Pleasant Street, applaud this lady here, don't know her, from Hill Beans. Foster parent, special thing. There's a thing I told you, I had a couple of friends before, one named common, one named sense. This is what a lot of this stuff falls under. No one has a brain, no one has common sense. If someone's living in it, that's the issue. Kids playing it every day, playhouse for the kids, that's an issue. Blocking the sidewalk, blocking somebody's view coming out the vehicle. That's why I dropped my fence so people could. I dropped the fence being nice. You know, that's what a lot of this is, common sense. You got someone gonna do something to their house, well, hey, what are you doing? Let's see, where's the erosion going? Well, let's see, you got something engineered up so we can see what the hell's going on? Excuse the language there, profanity training. But, you know, that's all this is, people. Common sense. We got the Friends of City Hall, been running our town since '85, when the Leopards come to town. You know, it's just, you know, people are tired. You live 3 blocks from me, yet you can't even walk around the corner and see some of this garbage. Next time, walk down to the cemetery, walk down Harold Street. Have a walk. Yeah, my yellow house looks like trash. You know, it needs to be redone. I've been waiting to redo it. Butch and Joan Posey, Lawrence Posey. Wife was sick, so for 5 years, because the houses are so tight, I didn't do nothing.
Mr. Haas.
All right, we're on the camper thing,
Yeah.
sorry about that. But yeah, it's a common sense thing. If it's not hurting anybody, playing, living in it, you know, people take care of the yard. If the yard's junk, it's a different story. Like I said, I don't know this woman from Hill of Beans, don't care. It's all about common sense. That's what makes this world go around, not the buddy system, common sense.
Anyone else like to speak on this public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing has been declared now closed. Next, public hearing for a special permit 17-04. Notice is hereby given to the Marine City Commission will conduct a hearing to receive public comments on special permit 17-04, parking of recreational equipment.
7:30 Scott.
7:30 Scott. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. The public hearing is now declared open.
Hello, my name is Donna Cartwright. I live at 730 Scott. We're seeking a permit to park our motorhome in the driveway. We do not have any space on the sides of the house. And there is an alley, but we cannot make the turn because of a fence and a telephone or electric pole or something or other. It's just doesn't go around, you know. So if you have any questions, contact me. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this public hearing? Hearing now, the public hearing is now closed. All right, moving on to backhoe bids. Lane.
This was an item that was on the previous agenda. We have since procured a couple of additional bids. Mike did put together a cover letter here for your consideration, and he's recommending the JCB backhoe through AIS in the amount of $97,900. And he is here if you have any other questions.
Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the bid to purchase the backhoe through AIS DBC in the amount of $97,900.
Support. Motion and support. Any other questions or concerns on it? Hearing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hendrick.
No.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Leffley.
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Mayor Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Commissioner Avery.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we're pickup truck bids. Elaine, can you handle that?
Similar type scenario, this was on a previous agenda. Mike has since gotten several quotes. At this point, he is recommending purchase of the Buick GMC in the amount of $38,258. That's actually a savings of about $800 or so from the original bid that was brought before the board.
Can I get a motion? Or
I move to approve the purchase from Todd Wenzel Buick GMC, the amount of $38,258 for the truck.
Support.
motion support. We had any questions or concerns on it?
Comment?
Yes.
Nice work, Mike, thanks. Actually, it turns out to be savings in this case, so thanks for the extra effort.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Leffley.
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Mayor Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Commissioner Avery.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
No.
Motion carries.
Next, we're going to move to the beach proclamation. And can I get Grace helping to please step up, please?
Beach committee, let's go.
I want to check out your tan.
She works the beach.
Yeah, for all those years. Yeah. She's an icon.
This is great.
I don't want to.
Who's
Turn that TV off.
Oh.
Oh, my.
You know those people?
Grace, we're going to freak her out.
Oh.
How nice is
Nothing bad, it's all good.
Gracie, is that just immediate family there?
There's some you don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
We have a proclamation for you. With our deepest appreciation, we hereby honor Grace and Halpin. In recognition for and appreciation for your passion, unconditional commitment, and enduring dedication for the Marine City Beach for providing 30 years as a lifeguard. Thank you. The City of Marine City and the Marine City residents and the Beach Fundraiser Committee, July 2017. And we're also going to place this at the beach. We have one for the
No.
I know you gave me a hard time about the beach today.
You didn't want to come tonight.
Yes, thank you. This is amazing. And I'm not even the mayor. Thank you.
Even after the comments about my daughter over there over the weekend.
But all my years at the beach, I loved it. I loved it. It was my pleasure working there all the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Hello. I don't know why I have to go on. So I said to her, maybe it's because you're the one that's got them all.
Can't believe we pulled that one off.
That is very nice.
I can't believe this kept them surprised this whole.
How did they keep that from her?
Yeah.
If I could just say a couple words
Sure.
for Grace.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Grace has been with us for what? Grace, 34 years? 34?
Q&A time.
40-some years, and she has taught over 4 generations of swim lessons at the pool, my mom included.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, my kids, and Mary Ellen's kids, her grandkids. It's been a real family affair working with Grace. She's a lot of fun, and she always makes you smile. You always walk away feeling good about yourself. I think the worst part of this for her is that now she's going to be afraid she can't say what she really wants to say to everybody.
It won't stop her.
So thank you very much for allowing my heart.
Oh, good part of the job. Next, we're moving on to the special permits. Mr. Davis, you talked about maybe down the road being able to maybe put a moratorium on this. Would that be something we could do before we address these issues today? Maybe put a moratorium on writing the tickets until we get the code enforcement, redo our code.
Well,
our code book.
I think I raised this at the last time this issue came up. You have an ordinance scheme which under D of 153.56 creates sort of a variance hearing process where you, on one hand, say in the ordinance scheme, no parking of these units unless they're in the side yard or rear. But yet if you come before this board and you give notice to 100-foot property owners that there is a relief valve similar to what a variance would be maybe before the ZBA, where you're going to allow it if they can establish the trouble with D, it just says if it is physically impossible to park the recreational equipment in the side or rear yards of a dwelling. And it kind of leaves a little bit of emptiness there with respect to, well, what does that mean and what are the standards? What is the commission to look at in reviewing these types of applications? What does it mean, physically impossible? We've heard testimony on some, well, it's probably possible, but I can't make that turn. It's probably possible, but there's trees in the way. So it would be my recommendation that this ordinance provision be revisited, and maybe that there would be a moratorium on this particular process until we're able to provide the City Commission with some review process. If you want to have this at all, you need to have some standards to which you're operating from. Otherwise, it becomes very subjective on a case-by-case basis. I know Mr. Turner sits on, I think you sit on the ZBA, right? I mean, you're guided by principles. It wasn't self-created. You remember all those buzzwords. We're going to have training, by the way. And,
Thanks.
And I'll ingrain those. There's a practical difficulty, that the character of the yard is different than others similarly situated, that by denying this person, you would be depriving them of a use that others in similar situations enjoy, and there's standards.
Well, it's an evaluation of the hardship.
Yeah, and it comes down from state law with some guidance for you. Here, I think we're lacking a little guidance as to what that standard is. And your question really is, how do you handle the ones that are here this evening? Is that the question?
To keep the people from having to come here every, because we'll be inundated with it. Is there something we should maybe put a moratorium on it, to direct the code enforcement to, you know, put a moratorium on until we revisit this before we even discuss these three? Yes, Mr. Turner.
So relative to what you're saying, when this board decided
Excuse me,
to
Jim.
hire Tetra Tech to revamp our codes, you know, which is good.
Good process.
They need it. And you volunteered some of your time to also help.
I did, and I've
which was better than good. At that time, I spoke up and I said, one of the things that's overlooked here is setting priorities. We have a new code enforcer, somewhat new, slightly over a year. And to hear things like people are getting violations for not scraping the paint off their house and not painting their house, and now this type of stuff. And what was encouraging to me was you gave the statement that, well, maybe we need, you know, we have codes, we're gonna fix them. The ones that stay, we might take a Marine City approach to some of these, small town approach to some of these, right? You did say that, and I was encouraged by that.
Correct.
But one of the things that I also said was, someone has to establish some priorities here. I looked at our city manager when I said that. I said, someone's got to set priorities. Is it more important to go stick a violation on someone who's parking a boat in their driveway or didn't scrape the paint off their house than it is for safety concerns? Someone's got to establish some priority here. We don't need to be dealing with these. And then for me, sitting on the ZBA, to hear that, well, she knows that it'll go to ZBA, and you guys are nice guys, you'll approve it. But they're out of that money out of their pocket, they're dealing with the stress, and they hope that this nice board will approve it for them. It shouldn't be coming to that. That's my concern. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Clausen.
There's a similar problem in other municipalities I've been in. And the city council did the same thing there, took it upon themselves to override the ZBA. And make that lasted about 5 months. And then they decided that there was so many coming at them over this that they gave it back to the zoning board of appeals.
Well, if you think that I'm talking about overriding ZBA, that's not what I'm saying.
Your ZBA is a judicial body.
Yes.
And they have a right of appeal after that. They have no right of appeal if we say no. So their best thing to do, and the best thing for the city council to do, is to stay out of it and let the zoning board of appeals handle it.
No.
And there's,
yes.
And there's, I don't disagree with either commissioner, but right now there's two other issues that make this unique. One, the ordinance specific to recreational vehicles indicates that the valve of relief currently is the city commission, right? So if what I'm hearing, and if I'm summarizing correctly from what I'm hearing, what I hear from Mr. Clausen, is that we need to have that due process, and that due process currently is the city commission. So that's one thing that makes this item unique.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, to speak to what Commissioner Turner indicated in that conversation, what was also said in that conversation is, if in research of a property, the code official or inspector finds other issues, that yes, it would be appropriate that she does do that. And also they should be responding to complaints. So even if and when the city manager provided some guidance there, it doesn't mean she's to ignore that. So we need to also keep that in mind. Because to some people living next door to someone that has a very badly painted house or something can be an issue. I've received 4 of those emails this month from people. So just an offer of perspective that makes both of what you said, an offer of perspective on that, and something that makes this specific ordinance of the RV enforcement unique, because in most other cases, it does go to the zoning board of appeals, but as it's written now, that is not the case, and we, have a due process there as well.
And I did ask that when the first one that came up.
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Simpson, thank you very much. I appreciate those comments. I totally agree. And one of the things I guess I would extend from what you just said is our code enforcer following up with the people? If they have a hardship, does she go there in person? Does she talk to these people? If they have concerns that she could probably personally address herself, I don't think she does. I think she just says, well, the commissioner or the ZBA will deal with it. after you pay all your permits and pay your fines. From what I've seen, the people I've talked to, that's not happening.
So, and I've heard the flip side of the story is that there's people that have been waiting years for property issues to be dealt with, and they haven't been, and it sounds like a good number of people can say that they're being forced to deal with
Property
some
issues, absolutely.
Well, property issues meaning
Paint peeling,
caved-in
boats
porches,
parked in driveways?
screen porches, things in backyards, and all these other things. So I've heard both. I don't disagree with you,
Okay.
but I've heard both. So I think the argument is that we're hearing all of this, and that's why we have city staff that is dealing with that.
Well, let's
not
get
us.
on the point. Right now, we're discussing recreational vehicles.
Okay.
Could we, at this time, put a moratorium on this? Is that something that, to stop?
Just recreational vehicles?
Just, because that seems to be the hot button, or, you know, at this time, you know.
Why is it the hot button?
Because this is 5 of them now, and.
Again, it goes back to my statement, priority. Is this a priority for our code enforcement?
Well, let me comment. This really isn't, I don't know how these are arising. I don't know if they're arising from code enforcement or just because it's what the ordinance says. You have an ordinance, and I think I've told you this a lot of times. If you have an ordinance, you have to enforce it. This ordinance creates a standard and says side yards and rear only, but then provides a relief valve.
Right.
And it directs you to decide those relief valves. You could put a moratorium, if you're going to do a moratorium, it would be a moratorium against the enforcement of this ordinance until further review.
That's what I'm asking. Lisa, you had a concern?
Well, he said some of it right there. I mean, you can't pick and choose what you're going to enforce and what you're not going to enforce. You can't go, we have people that they do file complaints. I get calls, you get calls, we all get calls on them. We can't sit there and just ignore these people because somebody else thinks it's a trivial matter. I saw the zoning minutes and I was a little concerned at what happened in those at that last meeting, only because something was reinterpreted and I don't think the rules were followed. Now, all of these I looked at, and I'm not, I can understand. I've had boats, I've got a travel trailer, I can't keep mine at my house. But after reviewing these, based on our ordinance, I don't know, you know, there are ways that you could resolve them. So I guess you have to decide, we either have to go with the ordinance or you put the moratorium on it until you can get it squared away exactly what constitutes
physically impossible.
Yes. Because right now, a lot of these are not physically impossible. The sad fact, it would cost the homeowner, but how do you make that determination of, is that the hardship?
Undue, it could be construed as an undue hardship.
Exactly.
But I'd like to see a moratorium on this at this time, just to give some relief for the public, so it's not, I mean, they don't have to put this all together to come forward on an individual basis, so we can look at this as basically as a community and get some input from the residents on what they want their ordinance to say.
Well, I think we also have to give the lawyer a chance to, and the other board a chance to review it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if I can offer a perspective, you know, I'm not saying that this would be the case in this specific instance, but oftentimes ordinances come back to planning commission for review. A standard process that every planning commission that I'm ever aware of and have ever researched does is they review the municipalities around them and municipalities similar to them. And so thinking that this issue might come up when we first started receiving these, I started to look around. There are many municipalities around us that have far more stringent standards. So just a word of caution, that is, if we put a moratorium on this and we do review this, that doesn't indicate that if particularly this does go to the planning commission, that if we're looking for guidance from that board, we might come up with something more strict. So if that's the case, I think we should be very specific about what is looked at and what is offered, as opposed to just a general review. I'm not advocating one way or another, but I'm just saying that most of the municipalities around us are far more strict than we are, and that's just an offer of perspective. So if you're looking at updating and I'm not advocating for that one way or another, but that's often, we found that out in reference ordinance, and a number of other things that we've looked at in the, 8 or 9 years I was on the planning commission as well. So just an offer of perspective that, yeah, if we do that, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's relief. It could turn out a different ways, and just food for thought as we're discussing.
Mr. Turner.
So in my mind, a moratorium would be a temporary halt pending future action.
Yes.
What do you perceive as the future action?
Till we can at least get some, in my opinion, and
Yes.
this is my opinion,
Which is
until we
I'm
can,
anxious to hear.
until we can get these ordinances reworked and maybe updated to, because some of the trends in lifestyles have changed, and we need
Okay.
to have this update to.
We have an independent board that's going to revamp these for us with the guidance from our city attorney. I don't perceive that they're going to take out any specific ordinances unless they're directed to.
Well, the whole thing's going to come back for review.
They're going to tune them up to make them legal.
Right.
They're not going to remove them.
They may. There may be some.
They're in conflict and
There
things
are
like that.
some of your ordinance scheme is in conflict with others.
Okay.
I think there will be some that are subject to removal, but you can direct in that process that this one be looked at. I'm just going to, and I know it's not appropriate just to say, well, what are other communities doing, but it sometimes sheds a light. As mentioned by the one applicant who spoke, there is a seasonal aspect to some of these ordinances. And I think that, there is a winter time when you may not want a recreational vehicle in the front yard for the entire winter. But during the season, you may allow for recreational vehicles, as the lady very eloquently stated, how she uses that during the week as she prepares for taking, was it six children? 4 children? She uses the convenience of having the vehicle there during the summer months. And so there is some seasonal aspect that we could ask that the ordinance reviewers respect.
Absolutely.
Do we not offer already a 72-hour?
Yeah, except for on the front lawn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there is a
3-day relief, or it's 3 days.
Yeah,
There is a 72-hour relief.
Where you can load and unload.
Load and unload and get ready for another camping trip.
But I think the problem we're having is because this ordinance there's just that one statement in there. It doesn't give you a whole lot of guidance to say about hardships or anything else, and that's the issue. So I think what he's asking is put a moratorium on this until we can build some better guidelines on how to determine those aspects. Like this particular one, you could put a gate in there. We can't demand that you put the gate in there. We can't, I don't know if she can afford to put the gate in there, but that would resolve the issue. But we're not here to decide that portion. We're just here to decide, does it fit in the yard or does it not fit in the yard? That's the problem.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes, the reason I brought this up before, and the reason I brought it up is I think by the other municipalities I work for also, that by the municipality approving this kind of stuff is taking it away from the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is made for that reason, because you say no, they don't have any recourse. The Zoning Board of Appeals says no, they have a right to go to court. They have a right of appeal through the ZBA, they don't through our board.
Mr. Avery.
I think we should bear in mind that the city was laid out when life was much different than it is now. Lots were 40 feet, 50 feet wide. The house pretty much filled up most of it because people weren't into big yards. A garage wasn't really necessary because you kept your horse down on Market Street. Now we have families that have multiple vehicles, and most of them are driven to work. by the people in the houses. So it's important that we look at how people can use the property that they own. And if it's appropriate, I would like to make a motion that we suspend this ordinance until it can be revised to meet the current needs of the city.
Support.
Mr. Turner.
Well, I raised my hand prior to your motion, so I'm going to assume that it's still up for discussion. As our city attorney pointed out, some of this seems to be seasonal, which makes sense. So this month's report had 62 violations. 21 we're dealing with, oh, by the way, I'm glad to see that we finally got a somewhat detailed report that I've been asking for. There were 21 grass and weed issues, 13 miscellaneous, don't know what those are. There were 11 recreational vehicles that were cited. So of the 8 that didn't come here in front of us, I'm assuming they knuckled under and moved them. So I would think that if a moratorium is put into place, it would also include those 8 people that didn't fight it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns? I have a motion on the floor for a moratorium on the recreational vehicle permit. Or, not permit, but the recreational ordinance. Vehicle ordinance. This will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Lovely,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Mayor Vandenbosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Avery,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mayor, just for clarification to the applicants who may not have followed all of that.
I didn't either.
It means that you can do what you're doing.
For now.
For now, we've sort of tabled this issue, so you don't have to seek this permit right now. You don't have to make this case. Does that make sense?
But in the future.
But in the future, we're going to revisit this, and like you said, we don't know how it'll turn out.
Yes.
If I can make a request of city staff, is that we now have at least a short list of individuals that, have come to us on this. Can we maintain that list, retain those, and anyone else that we feel like has been cited? So we have that list, so we can then notify these individuals if and when an updated ordinance comes. That way, we're totally transparent. People know what to expect, and it doesn't blindside them. I think that would be very appropriate. It's only potentially a handful of people, but it's very important to the people it does affect.
Great idea.
Will we have to reapply and repay?
We don't know, and I don't think so.
They've already gone through the process and paid, and their application is in process and just tabled.
How much are they out of pocket right now? Chris?
$78 or something.
Yeah.
$78, $80.
You're
is
just
for
tabled. You're
advertisement.
just suspended
Yep.
till we get back to you. So you can store the way you're storing.
But I mean, their fees will just stay there.
Yeah.
In the event you won't have to pay again, that'll just stay there until the next time. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
I also want to, if I could, thank the individuals that did take the time to write some very detailed responses that we received in our board packet, and for taking the time to follow through the process and be available tonight for questions and to present. That's oftentimes a difficult thing to do, and I just want to appreciate the people that have taken that time to come to us tonight.
Okay. So we're going to be skipping B, C, and D.
Yes, you are.
Moving on to North Mary Street Sewer Project. Mike, would you come up and explain this one to us?
Well, the bids came in way out of whack.
What did we budget? Do you remember?
I really don't want to say it because this is going back out to bid.
Yeah.
But it's way out of whack, and we all got the feeling that there's so much work out there right now. Everybody's just throwing numbers to get the work. So we're gonna revisit this, go back and see if we can tune it up a little bit better and get a better price on this. Myself and the engineering firm feels these prices are a little too high for what the work that needs to be done.
One of the things that's being considered is to try and get it cleaned out a little bit better so that we can get the camera in there so we get a better idea of the situation. We weren't able to get the camera through before, so we're gonna hopefully try that again should we move forward with rebidding this project.
Talked with the state, we can still utilize SAW grant monies to do this, to get in there and better clean this and probably plug off the sewer, actually remove all the water, get a camera in there and find out what's actually going on, see how far we need to, if we need to do stop repairs or if that whole thing needs to be replaced.
So you can get more detailed report on it?
Yes.
And one of the other considerations with these bids is that there is such a wide spread. The spread of the bids is almost as much as the lowest bid.
That's crazy.
Huge disparities.
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Mike, can you tell us anything that you might be doing to monitoring the current safety about that, since there's not a lot that we know about it? I know you guys are always great about making sure things are barricaded off and things like that. So for anyone that might be concerned that lives around there, certainly the Council on Aging.
I drive past her virtually every day to make sure that nothing's happening
Daily
down
inspection.
there. Okay, everything that we put in place is still there. If anybody sees anything happening down there, by all means, give me a call. So we
But
can
you're
take
on
care
site
of it.
daily, that's great.
Yeah, we drive past it daily just to make sure.
Thanks.
That's a concern of mine that someone's gonna pull in that driveway and.
So do we, I need a motion then to table this? Or do we just?
Reject bids.
Just reject the bids? Do we need a motion to reject the bids and
A
move on?
motion to reject, and then a motion to go back out.
I would make a motion to reject the bids received for the North Mary project.
Support.
Any other questions on that part? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Simpson.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Mayor Van Bosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Avery.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Lovely.
Yes.
Before we put out bids, you want to get some more work done to it before we even do more bids, so you don't even want us to address this tonight whatsoever? Okay, so we're moving on then. Next, we're moving on to the building official contract.
This is the contract for the position that we have. There's a split position, building official and code enforcement. So in essence, it's part-time doing both, but it's making the position a full-time position. There isn't really any change in the language from when you originally had this contract, when Susan was hired on as the building official. I did kind of streamline it and reference all of the policies and procedures in the employee manual in regards to any of the insurance that she's entitled to, the holidays, everything that's in that manual in essence. Compensation of $45,000 a year. She'll be working, or she has actually been working 40 hours a week. The same schedule as we have at the city offices. There isn't really anything else that's changed since her original contract.
I make a motion to approve the building official contract as presented to us.
Support.
Questions and concerns? Mr. Turner.
Question first. I didn't have a chance to try and look it up. Termination agreement talks about 3.7 of city charter, paragraph 1A. Do you know off the top of your head what that is?
Yes.
6 months, 3 months, 1 year?
No, 90
days?
she is there under the township, or I'm sorry, the city manager's pleasure. And if for some reason I let her go, she has an opportunity to come before commission to fight that release.
Okay.
And that's standard for all employees at that
For department
level.
heads, yes.
Right.
Legally, she's at will.
At will. Okay. Okay, that was my question. My comment now is, just for the record, I oppose this expenditure during budget. I think that money, this extra money, could be better spent fixing local streets or supporting DPW. Tonight's long debate on recreational vehicles is again another example. I don't think that this is a wise move. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Clausen?
I think it's great because I've been in that business for 24 years and I haven't been to a unit yet that if I don't have a full-time person doing both jobs or I have a code official with another code enforcement officer, you don't get the job done. There's not enough time. Between the apartments, you guys got apartments that are rentals. I don't know how many exactly here. I do one that got 300 in just multiples. I got 500 in just residential. Now, you tell me how I'm going to do that in a half a day. You know, and do code enforcement. You want everything done.
Mr. Turner.
You can't see how it can't be done. I know I'm not directing you directly, but this person's been doing this since June of 2016 on a part-time basis. A lot of code violations have been issued. She's been able to do both jobs on a part-time basis. I don't see there's a reason to spend this money. I think the money be better spent fixing streets or helping our DPW.
Mr. Simpson.
I support Susan in creating the full-time position. It's something that we often hear about for years, about things in the neighborhoods going unaddressed. You know, people down this one street in particular that I receive a lot of calls and comments about. You know, there's 3 or 4 homes just in this one street in the neighborhood that has been left this way for over 10 years. You know, and so it is providing relief and finally addressing many, many things. You know, the reason why we receive so many issues is in front of us lately. The reason why a lot of people are what I would say frustrated is because we're finally enforcing things that haven't been enforced. And that's the real problem, is that there hasn't been a great job communicating things, and we, as a city, we're not doing our job enforcing things that have been on the books often cases longer than I've been alive. And that's the real problem. It's not who's enforcing them and what's prioritizing, it's that we're finally doing the job as the city of what we should have been doing a long time ago. And I think this gives a vehicle and a means to really address those issues. And, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to down the road if we find that, you know, after a handful of years we get things squared away, to readdressing whether it should be a full-time or part-time, but there's a large body of work. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity of how this allows us to get restart our rental program. So, and again, these are my comments, not you know, any questions or directing towards any other commissioners, you know, viewpoint. My comments. You know, I sit on the planning commission for the city. Since I've been there, we've had 3 officials in that capacity, and Susan is probably the best one in my mind that we've had in that capacity. To really has allowed us to up our game on that particular board with the way she brings information to us, and that's been truly helpful there in that capacity.
I'm going to agree with the other 2 there. The job she has, I mean, the building inspector portion is one thing, and all the rentals is another. And those rentals have to be done, I believe, what, every 2 years? I think they have to be done. 2 or 3 years. So even though she'll get through them, and it might take her a year or 2 to get through all of them, then she's going to have to turn right around and start over again with those. The code enforcement's another issue. I know the code enforcement's been passed around between the police department and then somebody else, and then we hired another person, and nobody wanted to enforce everything. And it's a really miserable, thankless job, to tell you the truth. So I think she does a good job trying to do the job, and I think we have to get it done. We can't just let everything slide like we have been. A lot of people don't like, they think it's menial, and yes, we have the roads. The roads are another issue. I mean, that's a totally separate thing, and that's going to take us years to do, and we're gonna have to have a plan, and we're probably gonna have to go out for low-cost loans and everything else, so it's totally separate. But we have to take care of business, and this is part of it, and we need her. And I agree, if down the road, we don't need all the hours, we can readjust.
Yep, I totally agree with all three of you. I thank you for supporting my argument. The fact that she's been doing this and doing a fantastic job, she's caught up on the backlog. She's done that all since June of 2016 on a part-time basis, and she's doing a great job. Why would you want to change that? There's no reason to. There's no reason to spend that extra money unless you think she's a flight risk. If that's the only reason you're spending the money is to keep her here.
She has not done any of the rentals. None of that's been done, and I think part of this is kind of a personal issue you seem to have with her because of another matter, so.
Standpoint, please.
Yeah, please stand.
She hasn't done the entire job up to yet. She has been part-time trying to make it on what she has. She's only become full-time, we've only made that starting this current budget.
No.
Yes. She has not been full-time until this current budget. She has been part-time, correct?
She's been able to do the job part-time for a
But she's
year.
not doing the rentals, she's not doing a lot of the stuff, and she's got to take this town by sections because she doesn't have enough time currently part-time to get it done.
We're a small town.
It's bigger than you think.
Anyone else? Mr. Avery.
I support this motion, but I also feel that we must institute a priority system during this because, again, it's easy to pick low-hanging fruit. We need to pay attention to the major things here. Rental property and so on. That hasn't been done. That's the sort of thing. Go through the backlog. Take care of the job. I guess it's to look exactly what this person's duties are and then prioritize what should be done. I realize that's not written into here, but that is something that's important for us and may help in the public relations with the person doing the job also.
I wanted to support that, and you know, with a priority to the safety issues. I do think that you know, some issues are much more important than others, and in the organizing of her day. And then, of course, you also have the actual complaints that she has to deal with, which can sometimes skew that. But I do think that, and I don't know how we would do that except for just to say it. You know, please give safety issues the highest priority. I don't know whether that can be in the code, written anywhere, or whatever. But I do think that the safety issues need to have a high priority.
On that note, I think we can get our city manager can handle that portion. That's, you know, that's what we have her there for.
There are actually some pressing issues that we have been sending numerous letters, and in the near future, it will be coming before commission to consider legal action. So there are things that you may think nothing is going on, but things are going on. So that's something that we'll have to address in the future. I know since I've been here, I don't think that we've pursued legal action on some that have been hanging out there for a while, even with previous zoning enforcement officers, and we need to make a decision or to put our money where our mouth is, really.
Mr. Turner, you got anything else?
All set.
I was going to say, we also, you know, going back, have had a history of selective enforcement. And that's, you know, along with the safety issues, consistency. You know, if it's one for one, that's really important. Because I think when you talk about the small town thing, that's one of the things that happens. Oh, that's so-and-so's cousin, so whatever, you know, and we need to be consistent and prioritize the safety issues.
I would love to either work with the attorney or consultants or someone and work with commission to collectively put together some type of prioritization. You know, we've got, what, 500 pages worth of ordinances that Susan is in essence, enforcing. To pick and choose, it's not as easy as just looking at some particular things. Every single line of our code is something that she has to enforce, and it's very difficult to just say, I want to do these like 3 things, especially because if I choose the 3 things, or Susan does, you know, you may like it, you may not, or you may like it, you may not. You know, this board works as a group, and consensus is really something that would help us guide so that we know we have the backing of the commission as a body.
Prioritization is a good thought and concept, but we need to make sure we don't confuse that concept with selective enforcement. You know, and it's a catch-22, just like the city manager just said, is that you can't have both worlds. Again, it's just, you know, if you use an example of like DPW, if Mike's in an area, he might have a water main break, but if he's down there and finds 3 other issues that weren't at the top of his priority list, he sure as heck is going to fix that because he's down there and doing that, and that's the responsible thing to do. You know, if a police officer is addressing one issue and they notice 2 or 3 other issues with that same situation, they're sure as heck going to address those issues as well. So we need to realize that it's much more complex, and that we cannot confuse prioritization and selective enforcement, because they are one and the same oftentimes, and that's a very difficult situation to navigate. And again, we are duty bound to enforce everything.
Mr. Clausen.
I went into City Hall, and I have to step back when I go in there, because I have to stay out of the stuff that let them do their job. And happened to be in there one time, and the city manager and the code enforcement officer was taking care of a problem. And I thought they were going to be there all day. I mean, she just wouldn't be quiet, wouldn't take no for an answer, wouldn't take the understanding. And when you're in there, your day, you may have your day planned and what you figure you're going to do. It always ends up that something comes in and changes your whole plan the first thing of the day.
So our city manager and Mr. Simpson both raised very good points. There's hundreds of codes, and you have to be careful about selectivity or prioritizing what's most important. So what's happening right now? If there's hundreds of codes and she has no direction from this board or her manager, how is she choosing what to go after? She's probably addressing people coming in complaining, and then she's just seasonally picking things. But when I hear people are getting written up for, not for paint peeling off the wall, that just sends me over the edge. Or people parking boats, that's not a priority. So my point being is we have to make some kind of action. She's establishing, she's setting her own priorities. Either by people coming in and complaining the loudest, or she just decides that this is the one I'm going after this week. Somebody has to establish some priorities. What's most important? You can't say, well, there's hundreds of them there, and give her more time, she'll just go after more of them. That's not the right answer. The right answer is establish what this board, as representatives of Marine City, think are the most important things to go after and deal with. Safety issues, blight, whatever we determine, or whoever determines. Someone has to set some priorities. Otherwise, she just says, well, I've got hundreds of codes. What am I going to? I'll just pick this one today, and I'm going to go drive around and see who's in violation.
I think that particular statement is in conflict with what I think should be our ideal. In an ideal world, we assume that every staff member, every employee of the city is doing the job to the best of our ability. When we go around as a board saying that someone is selectively doing part of their job, I think that's very disingenuous. I very much don't get the thought that she, at any given time, is spotting what she wants to do on any given day. I assume that she's going out and addressing the large issues and the safety things that she may come across. So I disagree with that thought. I think that's...
Mr. Turner.
Has someone spoken to her about this? Have you spoken to her about priorities?
I've talked to her a little bit since our last meeting, and talking about focusing primarily on the health, safety, welfare.
So the list of 62, how were those established this month?
I can't tell you particularly how each one comes in.
Okay.
A lot of it, I'm sure, is generated from complaints, though.
That was my point. The squeaky wheel is getting the oil here, right? It's an old cliche.
Someone that calls up and says, take a look at this, she goes out, takes a look at it, and
So if
sees
Mr.
what's
Haas walks in
violation.
and starts swearing at her, she's gonna take care of him right away too.
But is that not part of the job, though? And the same analogy is if you call the police department on the emergency line and they all of a sudden stop responding to calls. If Mike stops responding to water leak calls, I mean, that's effectively the similar thing that you're saying to my ears. I don't buy that. You can't not
Mr.
respond to the citizens.
I always think he's pointing at me.
Won't take long. If we are acting to the squeaky wheels, well, that part I understand. But if we're going to prioritize on important, the three issues we had before us on RVs, there apparently has been nobody who has voiced any concern with any of these three. So there probably weren't any complaints. They were just picked.
Well, for the record, there were 11, not 3.
Well, I didn't, yeah. But we had 3 that we know of right now.
3 that tried to fight it.
I just wanted a question too. As a part of the new job, is she required to attend the planning commission meetings?
She's not required to. It's usually something that if there is an agenda item on there that is important enough for her to be there, I have her there. Currently, we're going through the master plan, which doesn't have a direct impact on her position and any type of enforcement or building approvals. So I don't have her attend the meetings. That way we can focus her efforts on other things.
And that just comes from some history because there were a lot of meetings that she did not attend that really hurt us. That we needed her there. And I just wondered what the setup was, especially if there's something there, you know, the plans and, you know, that we're trying to make a decision about and so forth and so on. I just I think it's really important that she attend those meetings.
When she first started, she did have some scheduling conflicts, I believe.
I was wondering about that, but
might have
now
been the
with a
case.
full-time position, I think it's really important that she attend those meetings, especially
Definitely
in certain
with something
circumstances.
building related when it's on the agenda.
Say one thing.
Yes, Mr. Claus.
I want to address the point of chipping paint. In 58, you got your lead base laws that went into effect. You also have your property maintenance code that went into effect, was a state law that talks about paint, chipping paint, and the only reason you're looking at it is probably somebody complained about it, and we want to see if it's lead-based paint and if somebody's going to hurt somebody's kid. Really? It's a safety issue.
That's a stretch.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that, you know, when we say things like the squeaky wheel and that kind of thing, that puts into a context, and that's effectively this board saying that anyone that calls to request city services being rendered as they should be is a squeaky wheel and doing something wrong and inappropriate. I think that, you know, the citizens that are in the neighborhoods every day are our best set of eyes. You know, no matter how many staff members we have, we cannot cover every instance, and we want everyone to feel welcome and open, and that we have a good process that includes them. To call someone the squeaky wheel, I think that's also disingenuous, in my opinion. I think that whole philosophy is inaccurate for what I see any municipality needing. You know, we need people engaged. We need people to follow a process. To say that you're complaining, you're the whiner, you're the squeaky wheel, I think goes very much against
And
that.
we are customer service. I mean, we
Yeah, we are
provide a
service
service.
rendering entity.
And we have to provide a service. I mean, if you have a concern, you have to be able to at least vent your.
You know, when we get, I'm sorry, when we get issues, questions, concerns that come into the office, we try to deal with every single one. Some are more pressing issues, a health, safety, welfare issue, something to do with a burst pipe, something like that, and I direct department heads to look into every issue that we have come in.
Since I used the term squeaky wheel, it wasn't meant in any negative connotation, not said with a sneer. It's just a point that somebody made an announcement to the people like they should. So there was a notice, something's important. Well, a person responds by acting on that question. It wasn't that there's anything wrong, it's just when that happens, that changes the order of business that somebody may have been doing that day.
All right.
It was really just intended as acknowledgement of what is being done and probably should be done. We certainly have to respond to questions. It's wrong not to.
All right, we've got a motion and a support on the floor. Any more concerns on this? If hearing none, let's have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Turner,
That would be a no.
Mayor Vandenbosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Avery,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Leftley,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to financial business. Disbursements including payroll for $817,222.26.
I move to approve disbursements including payroll in the amount of $817,222.26.
Support.
Motion and support. Questions and concerns? I've got one. We've got a payment, or Tifa's want to give money to the Titanic.
What page, please?
I don't.
That's in the minutes. Of the tip.
The Titanic Memorial Fund.
It's already sunk.
Yeah.
And if that's out of TIFA 1, we're supposedly close to the, and it's in TIFA 1, we're supposedly close to the, payoff on with the seawall. Is there enough expenditure to provide for that?
There is currently enough money in there and in the budget for that, yes.
But yet, it's not in the plan.
It's not specifically in the plan. It is something that generally under one of the line items, I think it's community promotion, had been budgeted, but not specifically.
And that would be, that's kosher then with the TIFA law. Okay. That was my concern. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Vandenbosch.
No.
Commissioner Avery,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
No.
Commissioner Clausen,
No.
Commissioner Leftley,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
So we're 3 and 3 right now. No.
Motion fails.
Moving on to plan,
So I have
preliminary.
a point of order in that. Does that mean we're not paying our bills then?
That's
with
right.
that?
Absolutely.
So I would make a motion to approve disbursements including payroll, everything with the exception of the Titanic-related expense from TIFA. I think it's important that we pay our bills and we pay our employees.
Do I have a second? Support. Questions or concerns on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Avery,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
No.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Leftley,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Mayor Vandenbosch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we're moving on to preliminary financial reports. I need a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Support.
Motion, support. Any questions or concerns on the preliminary financial statements? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. City managers report.
Over the last couple of weeks, I've attended Planning Commission, TIFA, and a County Commission meeting. Met with Randy Myers with Community Foundation regarding their willingness to work with Marine City in any future projects. My Board of Review was very minimal. I think there were only 14 applications for that. I attended an assessing meeting at the county today. It looks like they are a little off off the required state level of 50% of the state assessed value. And that's something that they will be working on adjusting in the future. I participated in a webinar regarding medical marijuana facilities. I was a little bit more detailed than anything else from information perspective. I know in the past we've talked about it a little bit with the option that should the city want to have any type of medical marijuana, either distribution, grow facility, anything like that, that it is up to commission if you want to pass an ordinance and allow for these type of facilities and plan for the zoning for them as well. They actually recommend going one step further if you want to prohibit it instead of just not doing anything, actually passing a resolution and in essence affirming that decision that you do not want to do anything. I could potentially bring that to the board in the future for consideration. I did get a sample resolution, so I might have that in a future meeting for your consideration. We have had several scheduled bus visits to Marine City recently, and we're going to have about another half dozen or so over the next month. We've had some staffing issues regarding the pavilion, restrooms, and some lock issues as well. We have put measures in place to help address that, so hopefully we've smoothed that out. If we have any other future problems, I'll be sure and let you know about that, and we will work our way towards resolving those issues and correcting them. I'm still working on the surplus funds memo. I did finally get a quote for the door system here, so I should have something hopefully next month for you to consider. Next Monday, myself and Susan will be meeting with Wade Trim. We have some preliminary results for the parking study that they did, and also some of the ordinance revisions for the first phase of revisions. The auditors are going to be in the office next week. There will also be some water meter software training next week for the staff that uses that. The software is in the process of being updated, so they need to have some training on that. I'm going to be out of the office next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at my manager's meeting. And then I also just kind of wanted to touch on something about issues that we do get complaints, and they don't necessarily come into us. On Facebook, we see things that are posted. The picture that Mike Hilfrink did pass around earlier, I actually did go out on site with Mike earlier this week and take a look at it. It is something where the gas company had done a patch and they failed to fill the patch, so we'll either be working with them or we'll wind up filling that patch ourselves. So I just want to let you know we do actively take a look at everything, and we do try to address issues that come up. That's all I got.
Anyone have any questions for the city manager?
Did you get any reports from our grant writer?
The last report I got, I think, was a month ago in the last TIPA packet. They did ask for one at the last meeting, so I should be getting an updated one. I can provide that copy to the commission as well.
Okay, thank you.
And going to commissioner privilege. Mr. Avery, why don't you start us off?
Okay. I will say that I was pleased to see Mike Itrich and the city manager, Elaine, touring the city, looking for just the situation there. That is a lot different than just sitting in an office and waiting for somebody to complain on something. So that was good to see. When we handle our roll call votes, that indicates we're dealing with a matter of serious nature, most likely financial. In this particular case, right now that just came up, we could have caused a problem of shutting down the city financial system when we were looking at over $800,000 over an issue that was 1,500. Now, if a person is concerned about the 1,500, which is fine, that should be brought up at a time and said, I won't vote for that. But otherwise, things can be stopped, and the citizens who we are responsible to have no idea why there's a problem. I think it is incumbent that we look at a system where a person who is going to vote no on an item that's coming up before the city, which should be good, don't think anybody's going to put up false motions here. If a person objects to it, they should mention why. And there could be a very good reason that the other people didn't see that. But just to sit back and say no, I think does a disservice to the citizens. Thank you.
Mrs. Lepta.
We're going in order. I had the privilege this week of helping to celebrate the life of a young lady, 96 years old, Betty Ann Conley, who was secretary to the city clerk. Yes, the city clerk had her own secretary for a number of years, and she also worked for the East China, and she was also Miss Marine City. They think somewhere back around 1938. They weren't sure. They couldn't quite get that, but it was wonderful to see so many of the people gathered to celebrate her life. She has been a gift to this city for a long time, and I was really privileged to be a part of that. Thank you.
Mr. Clausen.
I just want to thank everybody, and I hope they have a good summer and that things even themselves out.
A few things. As the Planning Commission is going through our master plan update, I want to remind individuals that we are looking for pictures of items to showcase within that master plan. It could be points of interest in the city, pictures of the river line, pictures of anything that you guys as citizens feel are important. Last time we reviewed our master plan, we didn't update too many pictures because we didn't have a lot available. You know, Facebook will really show us that we have some wonderful photographers in town, and there's a lot of amateur photographers. You know, any given day you see everyone outside. So that's why I reminded everyone while people are on vacation, while we have beautiful weather, if you have some wonderful shots of things, parks, buildings, anything that you think could be of value that we might consider for that master plan, if you could forward those to either myself to be included in our master plan discussions, or certainly the city manager. We just want to remind people we're looking for that. And we had the dedication to the new pavilion this past week, and I just want to give one final thank you to the Cadu family. It was a wonderful dedication. That project is just absolutely beautiful. You know, they certainly, the Cadu family, brought this to the city's attention, but one of the things that I wasn't even aware of that we found at the dedication is how there are so many individuals that were also involved in that. There's any number of tradesmen locally that donated either their time, labor, or did things at cost, or just volunteers that made that happen. And you know, I certainly don't have that list, but I want people to know that there was a wonderful opportunity, and many people came forward to give to bring that to the community, and I want to thank those individuals that were involved in that as well.
Lisa.
Okay, a couple things. I want to thank Aaron for getting the chip readers, but I also want to ask people, please put a tag on your pet with a name or address, something, because I know not all of them have chips, but there's so many of them that, you know, and everybody tries to be helpful to catch their pet. Try to get it to the rightful owner. I know our postal people really good about knowing where a lot of these pets go. I mean, I found a few, and they've known exactly what house because they're there all the time. But at least get some type of ID tag on the dog to help people get your pets back to you. I want to thank all the people that do call with concerns or questions. Try to handle them all. I never divulge where I get my information. Everybody knows that. I think we need that so that we can get issues turned in for the city manager. That helps her. On the bills, I go through the bills and I see a lot of things I don't approve of. So when I vote no, I'm not going to list every single one of them. Anybody out there can go through these bills and look at each one of them, just like we do. They're all in the packet. But you can see things, some things that I feel just we shouldn't be spending that kind of money on, and so that's why I vote no on those bills. I think one of the things too, Maritime Days is coming up. I hope everybody remembers first weekend in August. We got a lot of stuff there. The little kids doing their demolition derby is always really a lot of fun. I think the fireworks are on Friday night this year. So hopefully we'll have a really, really good festival and everybody can come out for that. And I think that's it.
Mr. Turner. I would like to also thank the Cadu family because it was very nice, and they asked me to cut the ribbon, and they did so much for it. I really wanted them to do it, but he asked me. But the sign looks wonderful. I mean, it was a very nice and a very heartwarming moment when Shafiq talked about coming to America, and it really set more of a better tone for that we haven't been hearing in the community, and how he came over and he became a citizen and what he's done for the community. And a lot of people don't realize all the donations they've made over the years to this and to that. And I mean, Dairy Queen was a sponsor for something almost continuously the whole time he ran it. So thank you very much. And then thank you for the Mariner, because they had the couple world premieres, and we didn't raise as much money as they wanted to for the Teen Rec Center, but we're still working on it, and you'll probably see some more, quite a bit more coming up shortly, because they're getting closer to try and put something together for the teens. And you see that on Facebook every day. We need something for the teens. Well, we need you as a community to come out and give us a hand to do it. I mean, the committee's working hard. They had a meeting right before the meeting today. So, and it's kind of close to my heart now since my wife's on the board, and she keeps getting onto these different boards and keeping us busier and busier. But please help support that, because I think it's much needed, and we need to get something done. And they are still looking for volunteers for Maritime Days. So they still need help, and you know, it's a community festival, so we need help to get it done. And that's about everything I've got. The City Commission will enter into a closed session to discuss strategy connected to the negotiations of a collective bargaining agreement with the employees represented by the Teamsters 214. There may or may not be action upon returning to open session. I need a motion to enter into closed session.
So moved.
Support.
And can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hendrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Lockley?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Van Der Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Avery?
Yes.